A single classified document exposed a structural weakness so severe that Joseph Stalin believed it could cause the immediate collapse of the Soviet Union. In July 1940, advancing German troops captured a stalled French evacuation train in the village of La Charité-sur-Loire. Inside the abandoned cargo crates, they discovered a set of top-secret files detailing Operation Pike, an active Anglo-French plan to launch a preemptive strategic bombing campaign against the USSR. This topographical map of the Soviet Union highlights the Caucasus region, specifically the Azerbaijani hub of Baku. Look at these two metrics. Allied planners had calculated that over 90% of Soviet oil extraction and roughly 80% of its petroleum refinement were concentrated right here, creating a single point of failure for the entire empire. British and French economic warfare specialists knew that bombers flying from Syria or Iraq could bypass inland air defenses. Tests at the Royal Arsenal at Woolwich confirmed that dropping incendiary bombs would ignite the oil-soaked soil around Baku. The resulting firestorm would burn for months, instantly cutting off the Red Army's operational fuel. Depriving the Soviet state of petroleum would also freeze its mechanized agricultural sector. Tractors and harvesters nationwide would stall, triggering a systemic famine of a scale the centralized Bolshevik state could likely not survive. The realization that Western planners had pinpointed the coordinates to dismantle his regime forced Stalin into a campaign of aggressive cartographic manipulation. To see how geography dictates the survival of empires, hit the subscribe button to join the global Warwatch network. 11 months later, the threat shifted from the southern mountains to the western plains. On June 22, 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa. According to a historical theory advanced by former Soviet intelligence officer Viktor Suvorov, the Red Army was mobilizing for an eventual offensive into Europe. As evidence, Suvorov points to a massive anomaly in military supplies. Forward Soviet units were heavily equipped with detailed topographic maps of Germany, but they lacked defensive maps of their own western borders. When the German blitzkrieg struck, Soviet commanders were physically lost. Without domestic topographic intelligence, they were unable to coordinate defensive maneuver warfare across their own territory. Divisions dissolved into chaos. By the time the city of Minsk fell on June 28th, this tactical blindness had led to the destruction of 5 Soviet armies and the capture of 324,000 soldiers in just 6 days. The reality of his geographic and strategic miscalculation shattered Stalin's psychological composure. He suffered a nervous breakdown and retreated to his private dacha, refusing to see his ministers while the military remained leaderless. Within a single week, the lack of defensive maps had enabled a German advance so deep that the Soviet high command believed the state itself was failing. Surviving would require a total reversal of military doctrine. By the spring of 1943, Stalin had abandoned the reckless, immediate counterattacks that had cost him so much in 1941. Facing a German summer offensive at Kursk, he trusted his generals to prepare the ground. This tactical schematic of the Kursk salient shows how the Red Army applied a concept called defense in depth. They traded space for time, constructing a massive interlocking grid of minefields and anti-tank zones that extended 150 kilometers deep into their own territory. This deep grid was designed to absorb. When Operation Citadel launched, the advancing German Panthers and Tigers were forced to slowly chew through layer after layer of prepared killing zones, exhausting their armor and fuel. Once the German offensive momentum broke, fresh Soviet reserves surged forward. This massive counterattack permanently shifted the strategic initiative to the Red Army. Kursk proved to Stalin that trading physical space for tactical depth was more effective than the desperate improvisations of the early war. For the remainder of the conflict, he would use geography to dictate the pace of the battle. Following the war, a victorious Stalin approached map-making as a tool for permanent security. At conferences with Allied leaders, he personally hand-marked the new frontiers of Eastern Europe. Watch Stalin redraw his western frontier along the Curzon line, absorbing Lviv to give Moscow control over crucial transport networks. To compensate Poland, Stalin shifted its western border to the Oder-Neisse line, annexing German territory to create a massive buffer for the Soviet Union. Assigning German lands to Poland created a state of geopolitical dependency. The new Polish government would live in fear of German revanchism, forcing them to rely on Soviet military protection to maintain their borders. Securing these lines required brutal demographic engineering. Millions of ethnic Germans were expelled, displaced Poles were moved westward, and native Estonians were deported from Narva, replaced by Russian settlers to secure absolute control over strategic uranium deposits. By ensuring the physical populations matched the geography of his new borders, Stalin physically locked Eastern Europe into the Soviet orbit. As the Cold War escalated, Stalin's anxieties regarding geographic vulnerability returned. Western strategic bombers relied heavily on physical maps to identify targets, and the Soviet Union's industrial centers were once again exposed. This grid illustrates the KGB's highly secret disinformation strategy. To deliberately corrupt geographic coordinates, mapmakers were ordered to falsify public maps of the USSR. Towns were shifted by dozens of miles, rivers were reshaped, and major roadways vanished to ensure any adversary attempting an airstrike would be misled. Simultaneously, Soviet cartographers were authorized to map Western cities with extreme precision. Discovered after the Cold War, these maps detailed the structural integrity of bridges and municipal water sources with modern, satellite-level accuracy. The West reciprocated by using aggressive map projections to shape public opinion against the Soviet Union. Look at this reconstruction of a 1952 Time magazine map. By placing Moscow at the center and looking down across Western Europe, the map emphasized the short distances across the Arctic Ocean, making the threat of Soviet bombers appear immediate to Western audiences. For the Soviet state, geography was a variable to be manipulated. A single map provided the coordinates for either domestic protection or total industrial destruction. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more deep dives into the hidden history of global conflict, hit the like button, share this video, and let us know in the comments what we should cover next. Make sure you subscribe to the Global Warwatch Network.